the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I want to tell you, when I was getting divorced, it felt like there were so many legal terms being thrown at me, and I didn't have a clue what they meant. And my lawyer only had time to explain things about the process and what we were negotiating briefly, so I found myself intimidated, scared, and anxious throughout the process. The bottom line was I needed to be educated and organized, and I just wasn't. Boy, do I wish Partwise would have been around then. Partwise is a platform that you can join that will educate you on everything you're going through as you move through the divorce process. Not only will you find answers to any question you might have, but as you engage in each module, you will gain the clarity and understanding of what you're actually doing so you can make really good decisions and end up with a really good divorce outcome. Kimberly Miller is the founder, and Kimberly is a former divorce attorney. She's also an LMFT and she's a CFP, so she knows all aspects of the divorce. She's really smart, and this is an amazing tool. If you want to learn more and get your free 7-day trial, go to part-wise.com. I also want to take a minute and tell you about the newest Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professional. Their names are Raquel Lazar-Paley and Elizabeth Pren, and they are wills and estate planning attorneys in California. After a divorce, I've always told people that it's really important to get a new will and trust, and that's true. But talking to Raquel, she said that you should start the process during your divorce because divorces can take 2 years sometimes, and you never know what can happen. So I would get on the phone with these guys and talk about your will and estate plan during your divorce. And if you're already divorced, it's not too late. If you want to learn more about these wonderful attorneys, just go to paleypren.com. You can also find Partwise and Raquel and Elizabeth in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You might have heard that phrase before, maybe not. My guest wrote an article for Divorced Girl Smiling called Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So that phrase, before we get started, was attributed to Peter McWilliams, who is an author and a speaker, and I didn't really know who he was, but I really like what he said. That phrase has also been used in motivational speeches by Bill Cowher, former Pittsburgh Steelers football coach, and also Steve Harvey, which, by the way, trivia, I was on the Steve Harvey show and I gave advice to women who were getting divorced. That was like in 2013. And I felt like I sounded good, but I've never looked uglier in my life. It was a terrible camera angle. And to this day, I'm really bummed about it because I would have used that clip to promote my guest appearances. But anyway, all right, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Great saying. There's so many things that are uncomfortable when you're getting divorced. That's what we're going to talk about today. My guest is a guy named Ron Platt. And Ron is a divorced guy. Well, hold on. He wasn't legally married, but was with someone and considered it a marriage. And he's the co-founder of his organization, the National Association for Single and Divorced Parents.
Damn.
And we're going to talk about that because I love this organization. We're going to tell you what it is. Hello, Ron.
Hey there, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being on the show, and tell me tell the listeners how you came up with "Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable," because that's an interesting story.
So I am a journal. I journal my thoughts. I journal my challenges. Just basically, I call it a brain dump in writing. And often, when I don't know what the answer is, or I don't know if I'm trying to interpret a dream, or I'm trying to really get an answer, I meditate before I journal, and I ask spirit for guidance. And often, spirit will start to take over my pen and will start writing the messages or the answers or the advice that needs to be given to me. And if you reread it, you realize it's not the way I write, so it's got to be coming from another source. And the challenge that I was having that day was sort of a recap of what I've gone through in my past. And the message that had come through from spirit was get comfortable being uncomfortable, because without growth, you cannot be comfortable and expect to grow. It's just every time I become complacent in my life, I know that there's something around the corner that's going to shake me up, because I'm still not done. I'm going to be learning for the rest of my life. And the minute you get comfortable, you just get complacent. And that's not what I'm supposed to be doing on this journey.
So interesting. And I love this because I know that anyone who is either thinking about divorce or going through one or already divorced, we've all been there. We've all been uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable now, and it's just part of life. And so let's talk about when you were trying to get out of your relationship that you consider like a marriage, same thing. You were with this guy for like a really long time. When you were trying to get out of that, what were some of the things that were making you uncomfortable about, like, really pulling the trigger? Like, do I really wanna be alone? What was scary?
So I call it the undivorced, because I wasn't married, but I went through everything that a normal divorce would go through. Um, I was with this person on and off for 14 years. And the reason why I was comfortable with him was because it was how I was raised. I was raised where love was conditional. My dad said to me at a very young age, don't tell me you love me, show me you love me. Well, you don't, which is reasonable, but you don't say that to a 6-year-old, because the 6-year-old interprets it to, I've got to go out and do things to earn the love of my parents.
Oh.
So I had a lot of responsibilities, and I was an overachiever and trying to, always saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. Do you love me now? Do you love me now? So, of course, I get out of college and I get into my first relationship. And of course, I'm going to be with somebody that's going to love me conditionally as well, because that's my norm. So I never made enough money. I never loved him enough. I never did enough for him. It was always and I did well. I was in the insurance business at the time and owned insurance agencies and was in product development. So I there was enough money coming in, but it was never enough, or I wasn't doing enough. And of course, that to me was a challenge. Like, oh, okay, I'll just go out and do more. I'll just do more to prove myself to him. So there were a couple of times that we had broken up. One was when he thought I had an affair, and I had no idea where that was coming from. I came home and he was on the phone with the realtor listing the house. And when we sat down, how can you say to your partner I did not cheat on you when he's getting information from somebody else saying that I had. And it was funny is that the when we finally sat down, my mother came over to talk to me, and he happened to be there, and she sat us both down and said, "You either believe him or you don't believe him. And if you don't believe him, then end the relationship. If you do believe him, then stop it." And he
I love
tried
her.
to give me a second chance, right? Even though I didn't do anything wrong. The second time was so he managed a paint store and hated his job. He was extremely talented. He was a painter himself, a house painter. He knew how to do faux finishing and Venetian stucco and wood graining. And I always used to say, "Stop what you're doing and go open up your own business." And he would always say to me, "You don't make enough to support the both of us, so I can't stop my job." That
Ouch.
went on. That went on for years until one day I was cooking in the kitchen, and he said it again. And I went back into the family room. I said, you came here from Cuba with nothing in your pocket and achieved everything you have right now. Using me as an excuse for not quitting a job you hate is just that. If you quit your job, I guarantee you'll figure out how to go ahead and pay the other half of the mortgage. So stop using me as an excuse. And it kind of shook him up enough that he quit the job the next day and opened up his business. And I was right there in the trenches with him, working whatever we need to do to get his business successful. And once he started making a really good income, like six figures, he said, "Oh, I don't need you anymore."
Wow, so hurtful. And that's
Yeah.
a really typical story that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so when
But
you go
what
ahead.
ended up happening was that we did break up, and that was a time that I really began to self explore what it was like to be single after 10 years at that point. And I'll go into that, but I ended up getting back together with him when he developed prostate cancer. And I thought, well, now I need to take care of him. And he wanted to be taken care of. And we realized 3 years later and when he started getting into drugs and alcohol and things like that, that it was so toxic for me that I had to get out. And that was the biggest challenge. But once I had put that in my head that I was done, and I think I wrote in the article, I'll never forget it. We were in the kitchen. He was having an argument with me. I looked at my watch. I had an appointment. I left the house. And as I left the house, a voice in my head said, "Today's the day." And I immediately responded by saying, "I know." The appointment canceled. I went back in the house. He was still in the kitchen. I said, "We're done." And I'd never broken up. It was always him who was breaking up the relationship.
And you never got back together.
And that was it. I mean, that's where the hard stuff happened because now we had to divide the house and he got an attorney and yada yada yada, which we'll go into. But in my head, once that voice said today's the day, it was done. In my head, it was done. But it took 14 years to get to that point.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today I'm here with Ron Platt. Ron is the co founder of the National Association for Single and Divorced Families. And Ron and I are talking about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about tips if you're uncomfortable, what you might be uncomfortable about, and then how to handle it, and then the benefits of being uncomfortable. So we'll be right back. I was a stay-at-home mom when I got divorced, and when the divorce was final, I was left with no health insurance. It was scary because I had been on my husband's excellent corporate plan for several years, and it was scary to think about monthly payments, deductibles, rate increases, and more. If you're looking for health insurance that you're going to lose in your divorce, I would highly recommend Lorena Tomasini, an insurance professional who has been practicing for 18 years. She is the founder of Malm Life and Health Insurance. Lorena is so honest. She has so much integrity. She knows about all different companies. She can answer any questions you have about health insurance. Just go to malmins.com. I also want to recommend a wonderful divorce coach named Janine Marie Powell. Janine is the founder of her practice, SOS Divorce Coaching, and she's been a coach for several years. Janine is divorced. She understands the struggles and the heartaches associated with your divorce. And she also specializes in betrayal, narcissism, and just being a single mother after divorce. If you want to learn more, I cannot recommend Janine enough. I absolutely think she is so trustworthy, so dedicated, such a warm, compassionate person. Just go to sosdivorcecoach.com. And you can also find both Janine and Malm Insurance in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today we're talking about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. My guest is Ron Platt. He's the co-founder of the National Association for Single and Divorced Families, the NASDF. Ron, before we get into these, talk about what people might be uncomfortable about and how to handle it and the benefits of it, tell us a little bit about the NASDF, because to me, you seem like you've always been an entrepreneur. You've had very successful businesses in the past. And then you decided after your own divorce to start this company. And tell my listeners what the company is and why they should join.
Sure. So the easiest way to explain what we do is if you know what AARP is, right? AARP, when you turn 50, you get a letter from them saying, hey, why don't you join us? We offer product services support for people who are 55 or older, and we advocate for Medicare and Social Security. So what NASDF does is we also provide product services support and resources for people who are getting a divorce, currently divorced, or have a single family household. And our future advocacy is going to be geared towards foster care reform because I'm a foster parent and I saw the crap that we had to go through to get the services that every child should be offered to, especially in the system. So for $19 a month, you get about 20 different discounts and services and resources. And the reason why we've put that together is if you Google divorce, you're going to get 4 pages of attorneys. And you have to go to page 5, 6, 7 before you start to get to resources. But when somebody's getting a divorce, yeah, hiring an attorney is one thing, but we need everything. You need to get a realtor to go ahead and buy or sell a house. So if you're a member of our association, 25%, there's going to be a 25% credit towards your closing costs if you use one of the realtors in our network. People need mental health care, so we provide 3 free mental health services. You got to put your kids somewhere. So daycare services, we have an agreement with Learning Care Group that represents Montessori and La Petite Academy that will waive the registration fees, put you at the top of the list, and then discount the daycare thereafter. We've worked out deals with Aflac, with a lot of major companies who have come to us and said, "What can we do to provide your members with better products and services?" So as we continue to grow, I call it the Costco effect. Costco has over 100 million members. As they get bigger and bigger, our product services get better, our discounts get deeper, and our free services get better. So my passion was being able to help people build a better foundation when they're in the process of getting a divorce. And oh, by the way, this stuff is great if you're single. This stuff that you don't have to be divorced or anything to get the services and products that we offer on it as benefits.
And you don't have to be 50. You can be any age.
You don't have to be 50, no.
Okay. Now, Ron, everything when you started explaining about it, I was like, well, sounds like Divorce Girl Smiling. And there is a lot of synergy here between our two
Absolutely.
companies. And a lot of the Divorce Girl Smiling trusted professionals are talking to Ron about getting into his network and offering a discount on their services. And it's funny, I think I've told you this in the past, Ron, that you sort of stole my idea because part of a while ago, I was thinking I should offer discounts on Divorce Girl Smiling. And now I feel like for me, I don't need to do that. I just need to promote the NASDF and you're going to get the discounts. So
Yeah.
great job. I think this is a huge winner of a concept and a company, and I think it's going to become huge. So really, really happy that you're one of my Divorce Girl Smiling partners. And I know it's going to be a huge success.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And you've been great for our organization as well.
I'm so glad. Okay, let's move on and tell our listeners. Let's just start listing things and then everybody listening, you're probably going to just keep nodding your head. What are we uncomfortable about when we're thinking about divorce or going through one? How am I going to be a single mother, a single parent? Am I going to have to go back to work? I haven't worked in 15 years.
Mhm.
Am I going to have to date again? What a nightmare that is. I don't want to date again. I was comfortable. What else?
Know how to budget. I mean, my partner did the budgeting, handled all the bills. Now I've got to handle that. I think it's an overwhelming of responsibility that was once shared that's no longer shared, and it now becomes your responsibility.
Completely. Like, I never killed spiders, and it was when I got divorced, it was like, "Ah!" I was screaming when I saw a spider, and I just learned how to and I don't even kill them anymore. I actually put them on a piece of paper and take them outside.
Yep.
So it was very empowering. That's a very small example, but there are countless things that make us really uncomfortable. And you know why? It's because we've never done it before. It's unfamiliar territory. And so that's really the core of what going through a divorce feels like. Everything is uncomfortable because we just don't know. When you walked out on your husband and said, I've had enough, I'm done with this, that was you having enough guts to say, okay, I'm going to be uncomfortable now. I'm going to make this work. Why? Because we know that being with him was not the better choice. Being uncomfortable is oftentimes the better choice.
Yeah. It's I think part of the big uncomfortable is what is it going to be like, A, to be alone, and B, to actually have to deal with my own stuff. You know, it's always a 50-50 in a divorce. Even if the person has been unfaithful, there's still a 50-50 in there, because I don't think you can come into a relationship and just think that the other person can be responsible. So when you have to, if you, unless you jump into another relationship immediately, which I did, and I found out that the person I was dating had the same personality and loved me conditionally, just like my past relationship did. He just looked different, but I was able to make the connection very quickly and went, "Wait, something's oddly familiar about this." And once I made the connection, I cut it off, and it forced me to now go in and say, "Why do you keep falling for the same type of people? Why do you think you need to be loved conditionally versus unconditionally? Let's work on this." And my sister said to me at the time, "Don't date for 5 years." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not gonna be alone for 5 years." But what ended up happening is I did stop dating and started doing a lot of introspective work. I went to therapy. I did the hard stuff, the uncomfortable stuff that you have to do to figure out how to have a better relationship in the future and how to love yourself first. Because, as you know, if you don't love yourself, how do you expect other people to love you?
Absolutely. And it's funny because the more time that you when you decide, "Okay, I'm not gonna date," it's kinda, like, scary, like, "Ooh, this doesn't feel normal. I've never not dated. I've never been by myself. I don't wanna be by myself," and that is why so many people just cover up their divorce with another marriage and end up divorced for a second time, which, by the way, I'm not judging anyone. I did it too, but I didn't get divorced because I never married the guy, but I almost did, so I could have been divorced again too. So no judgment, but when I finally realized, like, I need to be by myself. I need to, like, really figure it out, and the more time that goes by, the more you're like, "Okay, I don't really need anyone. I'm enjoying this getting to know myself. I'm enjoying the pride I'm feeling by being empowered and learning new things and changing and embracing the uncomfortableness." And then you just don't even feel like you even need anyone, and that's when Mr. or Miss Wonderful comes into your life. That's my opinion.
Or a friend of mine shared. So I had dated for about 3 years, and then I realized, okay, I want a relationship again. And he said, "You need to start interviewing your dates." And I said, "Oh, how do you do that?" He's like, "Well, you have something, I think we get on ourselves like, I'm not worth anything. I'm this person is so much better than I am. They make more money than I do. They're smarter than I am." And he immediately put a stop to that and said, "You own your own business. You drive a nice car. You own a house. You look great. You go to the gym. Like, give yourself the credit that's due. You are fabulous the way you are." And you're like, "Well, I am." And then you start realizing that the other people who might look really good and have a job are living with their moms. And you're like, "Oh, so maybe their life isn't so great." And or you go on a date with somebody that's terribly good looking, and then you ask, "What's your longest term relationship?" And they say 6 months, and they're in their mid 40s. You're like, so they're not the issue. You are, because if you're 40 and your longest relationship is 6 months, it's not the other person. You begin to develop the certain confidence in yourself, A, because you know what your value is. And as you go on these, I call them informational dates or interview dates, when you have a clear vision of what it is that you want, and I've asked a lot of people, "What do you want in your new relationship?" And they always give me a list of what they don't want. And I say, "Well, that's great. I hear you. That's all the stuff you had from your previous rate. But what do you want?" And when I started journaling about it, I got more clearer as to what I wanted. And when I would go on these dates and I started interviewing them, they didn't know they were being interviewed. And second of all, I could tell within the first part of the dinner, whether this is going to lead to a second date or not, because it's like, this person doesn't have their business together. They're not doing better than I am. They're regressing more than where I'm at right now. And I want to date somebody who's at my level or better. So
Okay, you know what's so funny? The advice that you're giving is the advice that I gave on the Steve Harvey show. This is what I
I
told
didn't see
these
that episode.
women. I
Yeah.
said, am I at a better angle today?
Yeah.
But anyway, what I said on the Steve Harvey show was that women Well, probably men also. Everybody does the same
Absolutely.
thing. We go on these dates and we're getting ready for the date and we're getting ready and we're go, "Oh, I hope he likes me. I
Yeah.
really like this guy. He looks perfect and I hope he likes me." Instead, why not turn it around and say, "I hope I like him."
Yeah,
And
I look
I
fabulous.
yes, and I have a lot to offer. And you
Yeah.
know what? Nobody's perfect and you don't have to get conceited and
No.
cocky, but know your worth.
Correct.
Know what you are worth, and being uncomfortable gets you to that place.
Oh, yeah.
Uncomfortable and then overcoming that is what gets you to the place of being able to say, "This guy or this woman is so lucky to be with me."
Yeah. I think it was a definite switch in my mindset. Once I had a vision as to how I wanted to be loved, and going through that process was uncomfortable because you have to do away with a lot of old habits, and habits are hard to break, as they say, and new habits are hard to form. So it's easy when you suddenly go, if you've been loved conditionally your whole life and you meet up with another person that loves you conditionally, you're like, oh, this is easy. Oh my God, I'm in love. Wait a minute. This feels too comfortable. And this isn't what I want. This is I want to be loved. If my hair is not parted the right way, or I have some cheese hanging from my chin, that they're not going to think I'm disgusting and walk out of the table. They're going to reach over and they're going to grab it with a napkin and say, here you go, love. You had a little piece of cheese." And you're like, "Oh, okay." So it's but it's a certain confidence, and people are turned on by that confidence. That it and it they're like Jackie said, it's not being cocky or arrogant, it's like, I'm not willing to tolerate that, and I am in a beautiful relationship now that I've been in for 15 years, whom my husband, and he is my husband, the previous one was not. I was not married to that person. I had no issues asking my current husband to marry me because I was very much in love, and he was very in line with exactly what I was looking for. I told Jackie he's the adult in the family. When I sat with him, he was ahead of me, and he was also much younger than I was, which I wasn't expecting, I wasn't looking for. But he was ahead of where I was. And I thought, that's a turn on. Okay. And he was turned on by me because he saw that I was trying to get back on my feet, that I was reestablishing my life, that I had a foster son, that I was able to have enough heart to be able to give to a 13-year-old boy. So he got as much, he saw in me what he wanted, and I saw in myself what he was. And that's why it worked, and we knew it very quickly. So, but again, it was about clarity, it was about vision, it was about doing the work to understand how you want to be loved. And he understood that, and I understood that.
Okay, I love hearing that, so congratulations for that. And I wanna tell you, I don't know if you know this, Ron, but I've been with my, I guess I'll call him a we say husband and wife even though we're not legally
Never.
married, but we've been together 10 years, and my mother has said to me, like, "You wouldn't have even looked at him when you were younger because he was too nice. You would have said like, 'Ew, he's too into me.'" Well, guess what? That's a good thing.
Correct.
And so I'm such a better person, meaning more secure, more gratitude, um, more feeling more worthy of the love. Because if you're sitting here saying, like, "Ew, he's too into me," or "She's too into me," then that's because maybe you don't feel like you're worthy of that. Being into someone like that is a really good thing. Not love bombing at the beginning
Right.
and too much and it's not lasting. That's not what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I'm talking about years into the relationship or months even into it. And you'll know if it's love bombing or if it's just a really good person who truly loves you.
And understand that a relationship is never 100%. I always say if your relationship is 80-20, 80 good, 20 bad, that's great. Even if it's 70-30, it's 30% you can work on. And that's the uncomfortable part, that of the relationship. If it's 50-50, not so great. It shouldn't be 50-50. If you're in a relationship that is in line with who you are and what you want, it should never get worse than a 70-30, as I say.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think more like 80-20, but
Absolutely, but I'm saying
okay.
that the 70-30 range, you need therapy to make sure
Yeah.
you get re-aligned with your partner.
Okay, now we're running out of time, but I wanted to bring this up and see what you think, Ron. So, people sitting here might think, well, how do I get comfortable being uncomfortable? How do I do it? And I wrote this article a long time ago called Change is a Bitch: Tips for Coping with Fear of Change. And some of the tips I gave are mindful breathing, stress reduction, like very much like yoga breathing, meditation breathing. Also, relinquish control and realize what you can't change and what you can. Try to find gratitude for everything that you have. And then, like, keep going. Like, my dad used to say when I was going through my divorce, "You're doing great. Keep going." And I think what he meant was keep living, keep doing good things, keep working, keep being a good parent, and, like, just let time go by. And then you'll get used to the uncomfortable. And then a couple of the other ones were find your inner strength and believe in yourself. What do you think? Any other tips for somebody who's really scared of the change?
So I've had business coaches throughout my career who've kept me in line and held me accountable. And one of the great and many of the speakers I've gone to here, they all have something in common, and that is they do daily affirmations and gratitudes. And again, my breakup was during the Great Recession. So not only was I breaking up with my partner, but I basically lost everything. I mean, he fought me on the house. I walked away with nothing. I had to start, and then being in real estate, the market had completely crashed. So I had nothing. I had to start from scratch. The only thing that really helped with my survival during this period was doing my daily affirmations, just being very consistent with it. And then after I was done with my affirmations is do my gratitudes. That there, even though your life is crap at the moment, there are things to be blessed with, things that are good in your life, including not having that person in your life as well. So to this day, and that was almost 20 years ago, when I get in the shower, I'm starting with my affirmations, I'm starting with my gratitudes, or if I'm the minute I get out of bed, I thank God for allowing me to be able to get out of bed and put my feet on the ground. So I mean, there's always things to be gracious for. And I think that for me is what got me through the toughest time. And because it got me through the toughest time, I don't want to stop doing it, even though things are much better in my life.
I love that so much. And I also think you can do that while if you're a spiritual person, thanking God for all of those things and realizing that there's a higher power, and that's something you do have control over, which comforts a lot of people in a way. Oh my gosh, Ron, I wish we had another hour. I could sit and talk to you for so long. Thank you
Likewise.
so much for taking time to be on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
If you want to learn more about the National Association for Divorced and Single Parents, NASDF.org, and you can also find them in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling under Divorce Advocate Organizations. We're the only one. So
Thank you. We also have a YouTube page. We have Facebook, so Instagram. Everything's under NASDF.org on our Facebook and YouTube. There's lots of great videos. I've done some great interviews. Jackie will be on there as well. So people giving advice, our vendors talking about what kind of products and services we have. But we are looking to increase our membership. So please go to NASDF.org and join. We'd love to have you.
and I would actually recommend joining now because I think when they start really getting big, they're gonna raise their prices, but I don't know. No.
No,
Oh,
hopefully we'll be lowering our prices, God willing, when we get to be very big. Yeah.
that's so nice.
Yeah.
So nice to hear. And, like, from one discount, you can pay for the whole year massively. Like, a $200 a year investment is like you could get that back in with a discount for one professional.
One professional, or if they use our real estate services, just the 25% credit on your closing costs is easily anywhere between three to $5,000. I mean, we are the only association that is able to do that for real estate purposes.
I love it.
Yeah,
Thanks again, Ron.
absolutely. Thank you again for having me.
And to everybody listening, thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn more, go to divorcedgirlsmiling.com. You can listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult.